Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Lemon Garden. Okay, so now we're in the month of June. It's time to basically empty the greenhouse and convert it into the tomato house. Now, basically what I've got to do is shift all of these trays out, all these plants and everything, put them outside. They'll just have to stop outside until I get time to put them in. And what I'm going to be doing is basically digging half of this, roughly half of this soil out, and just putting that back on the garden. And then what I'll be doing is adding into here some grass cuttings, some comfrey trimmings, if you like, and then putting the soil back over the top, and then freshening it up. I'm going to be putting a couple of bags of the clover compost, and also going to be putting some rotted down wood chip in there just to break the soil up a bit. And now when I've done that, it should come back up to here. So the reason for doing all of this, the grass goes at the bottom. Now the grass, as it decays, gives off a lot of heat, carbon dioxide, as I've explained in previous clips. And but basically what it does is it warms the bed up. This will encourage the tomatoes to grow quickly and strongly, and also it also gives off nitrogen as well into the soil, which is also a good fertiliser for the tomato plants. However, when we get to the fruiting, what we actually need is potash or potassium. Now that's where the comfrey comes in. So I've got two nice big comfrey plants now. There's this one here, which is primed to be cut down. I've actually needed to support it. I put some sticks around it last night, and this one here. And what I'm going to basically do is chop all these down, and I'm actually going to put those on top of the grass. So I'm going to have a layer of grass around sort of 4 inches or so at the bottom. Then I'm going to put on top of that some soil, and then I'm going to put some mix some comfrey in with that. And then the top dressing is basically going to be the soil mixed with the clover compost, also with some well rotted down wood chip, and also some chicken manure. All of that's going to be mixed, and so there's going to be lots of organic material in there, lots of fertilisers, lots of all the good things. And then basically what I'll be able to do then is put the canes up, attach them to these as we did last year, and then I can plant the cucumbers at the back, and then obviously the strawberries at the front, tomatoes at the front, and then obviously there's going to be tomatoes along here as well. So there's no easy way of doing this. This is basically hard work, to be honest with you. So what I'm going to be doing now is digging all of this out. I'll show you stage by stage as I'm doing it, and then I'll be putting the tomatoes in. So I'll show you what all that looks like. Okay, so that's all the stuff out of this side. Now what I'm going to do is basically dig the soil from here over to that side, and obviously what you want to be doing is making sure that, obviously, you need to remember that glass is easily broken. So what I'll do is I'll just put this board across the back here, which is an aluminium, that'll take the weight of the soil. And I've got one of the wooden plinths from over there just against the glass there. So what I can do is I can pile the earth up this half, that half up here, and then obviously the soil's going to be kind of up here at the time, and then basically what I can do then is put the grass in this side, and then bring all the dirt back over this side. Obviously move the boards over here to protect this glass, and then I can do the same with that. So do it in two halves, and then that's that bed done. So what I'll do is I'll just dig it all over, and I'll show you step by step how I'm doing it. Okay, so that's that half up there, and to be honest with you, it looks a lot more work than it actually is. It's quite easy just to throw it up in, and you can see why the boards are there now, because the soil's kind of leaning against those, which is leaning against the frame, so it's the frame that's taking the weight, so nothing's going to break. So what I need to do now is put the grass in there, so I'll go and get the grass, put it in, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so that's one wheelbarrow full, so obviously it's a big wheelbarrow, one like that, so it's 120 litre. So probably standard wheelbarrow size, probably two wheelbarrows. So that's about well, you can see how deep it is. It's kind of that deep, so basically about 7 or 8 inches deep, and you can see the heat coming. I don't know if you can see the. I think if I get the camera close enough, it'll actually steam up. But there's loads of heat coming off on there. So what I'm going to do now is basically put half of this soil back on there, and then I'm going to be putting some chicken muck on, then some more soil back on. Then I can mix it all up, because obviously you want the chicken muck to be sort of mixed in with the soil. So I'll just do that now, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so that's a barrel's worth of chicken muck in there, and all I need to do now is just basically spread that around the half that I'm doing, like that. Now this has literally just come out the run, so it's quite strawy. There's not that much sort of chicken muck in there as such. But what I'm going to do now is basically just put the earth back on top of there, and then it's much easier to mix it up if you do it this way round. So basically all I need to do now is just spread the dirt back over like that. Obviously all of this earth's going to go over in a moment anyway, but what I like to do is just get this side done, and then it's going to be easier to do the rest then. So that's where the borderline is. Okay, so I've got all the soil piled up this side now. Obviously I'll move the boards over here, and I've got the grass in there. You can see the windows are steaming up from the heat running off it. I've got all the windows wide open. Now when you do the second half, if you're doing it like this, what you will need to do is get some trugs, because you're not going to be able to get all of the soil over here in one go. So so now I've got that down there. What I'm going to do is put, again, just the same as this side, put some of the dirt back over here, then put some chicken muck in, and then put the rest of the dirt over. Then all I need to do then is level it all off, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so same as the other side, grass, then some dirt, about 4 or 5 inches of dirt. Now this is the chicken manure, that's all going to be spread on this half, and then the top dressing of the soil. Then I can mix basically the chicken manure and the soil together, and then I'm also going to be putting some wood chip on there, which I'll put in next. So I'll get all this mixed up, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, so now it's just a case of mixing it. So we're just kind of doing this kind of thing, which will basically mix all the straw and the dirt together. And then as soon as I've done that, I'll be able to put some more dirt on the top, along with the saw, the rotted down wood chipping, sawdust, whatever. And then what you need to make sure is you get all of the bits, not just the middle. And make sure you get down the sides as well, and get all that mixed up as best you can. And then I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. Okay, so that's what it looks like when it's finished. Obviously the other side here is going to be done in exactly the same way, so I shan't show you that. So the next thing to do basically is to put the sticks in, and then we can start to put the cucumber and tomato plants in. Okay, so first of all I'll put the back 6 sticks in now. These are for the cucumber plants. These are connected to these going upright, so also the cucumber's going to climb up into the roof. And these are the variety that I've got. These are female F1. Most certainly looking slightly stressed in there, so they're obviously ready to go out. So I'll just bob these in at the back. What you need to be doing is planting them at the same level as they were in the pot. Don't be tempted to plant them too deep, because they can rot off at the bottom. Okay, so all you need to do basically is dig a bit of a hole in front of the stick like that, and put the cucumber plant in. As you can see, they're not too sort of pot bound, but they most certainly need to go. Now what I will be doing is putting some Epsom salts on these, just to give them a boost of magnesium, just to help them along, like I did last year. So that's the first thing. As I say, don't plant them too deep, because they are prone to rotting off at the bottom if you're not careful. And most certainly what you don't want to do is overwater these. So if anything, you want to keep them proud of the ground. But obviously this earth will sink in the next few days as it settles in, and all the worms get to work in here. You know, this level of ground will most certainly sink. So you don't want to be sort of planting them too proud, but most certainly what you don't want to be doing is planting them underneath the ground. Okay, so that's the cucumbers in. Now what I can do is come forward and put the first row of canes in for the tomatoes. Okay, so that's it with all the canes in. Now obviously I have shown you in the past I've built this structure in the roof where I've got steel cables running backwards and forwards here to hold all the cables, the poles up. So it's important that you anchor them at the top, and obviously they're anchored at the bottom in the ground. The tomato plants do get sort of top heavy, and what you need to do is properly support your tomatoes. And there's nothing worse, obviously, if you've been growing tomatoes for months, for the whole thing to fall over and you damage your plant or whatever. And tomato plants are easily damaged, so you need to make sure, I can't stress enough, that your canes are sort of anchored at the top. If you don't have anything in the roof of your greenhouse, what I suggest you do is run some canes along the top as well, and put some sort of diagonals in as well, exactly like I've done the beans out on the main plot. Because what you want to do is make sure that the cane will not move in any direction, so that there's no chance of it as soon as the weight of the tomato plant's on there. And obviously each tomato plant can be carrying 2.5, maybe even 3 kilos of fruit at any one time. You need to make sure that the cane is rock solid, and that can actually withstand the weight of the tomatoes on there. So anchor them all at the top, and if you can do what I've done, anchor it to the actual structure of the greenhouse, then you know that the canes aren't going to go anywhere. Okay, so coming to actually plant your tomatoes, what you want to do is, some of my tomatoes are actually a bit smaller this year than I really would like them. They're normally all about kind of this big. This is about 14 inches high in total. I know you can't see the entire plant, but what you want to be doing is actually planting the bottom sort of 3 or 4 inches of the plant. So what you need to do is take off any side shoots just with your thumbnail, just pinch them off, and what will actually happen is you will get roots forming at the bottom of the tomato plant, which will, obviously, the more roots you get, the more food you can get into the plant, therefore the more tomatoes. So if you actually look at the bottom of a tomato plant, I don't know if you can see this, but at the bottom of a tomato plant in here you'll see sort of little knobbles on the side of the shoot. Those will turn into roots if you bury them. So what you need to do is take your tomato plant out. This is actually a money maker, so I'll just get this out of the pot, and the first money maker is going to go just about here. So I'll just make the hole. And what you want to be doing is, let's get the dirt out. What you want to be doing is planting the plant so that the ground level is about 3 or 4 inches above where it was actually in the pot. So you could actually take that leaf off as well. In fact, I will do. So let's take that leaf off as well. Just snap the leaf off, and then I'll plant it up to that point there. So I'm just going to dig that out slightly more. Now I know that may sound a bit weird to sort of bury the plant even deeper, but trust me, the roots will form off that main stem, which will provide more food, more water going up into the stem, so then the plant can be so much more healthier and therefore bear more fruit for you. Okay, so that's all the tomatoes in this side. So we've got all of these are money makers all the way down to here, and then these last two here, they're the Rainbow F1 hybrids that I've grown. So I'll put 2 of those in. There is one other one, but I thought 2 would be enough of those. Now on this side we're going to have Alicante. In this bed there's going to be 3 rows of tomatoes other than 2, and then at the end here I'm going to put 3 money makers. Okay, so that's the greenhouse finished. So on this side we've got Rainbow F1, and we've got money maker, and then on this side, a little bit closer together, we've got Alicante, and then these last 2 here are Garden's Delight, which are small cherry ones. Now there's 2 different types of tomatoes in here. Basically the Alicante and the money maker, they're cordon type tomatoes, where they'll just grow a single shoot going up, and then the fruit trusses will come off that, basically the trunk of it, if you like. The Rainbow F1 and also the Garden's Delight, they're bush type. So basically what you need to do is, as these are growing, the cordon ones, what you need to be doing is taking out the side shoots. I've taken the ones out of these, but if you look at this one here, see this side shoot here, what you need to do is just pull that off to the side and remove that, and then you just want the central stalk. The bush type tomatoes, you just leave them. So all of these little side shoots here, just leave them to grow, and they'll sort of grow into like more of a bush, which is why I've got these ones on the end, because they'll tend to bush out a little bit more. Now last year it did get a little bit sort of stagnant air-wise down that bottom corner there. So what I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks is this bottom pane of glass here, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to put an opening type window in there, which I'm going to make. So I'll show you how to make one of those, but basically all I'm going to do is remove that pane and then that pane, because obviously you need to take the top one out first. Then I'm going to replace the pane at the bottom with perspex, exactly like I did on this side here. This one here is perspex. So I'm going to put a piece of perspex in the bottom, and then what I'm going to do is make an opening in there that can be opened or closed. I'm not quite sure what design I'm going to use yet. There's a couple of different options, but I'll be doing that the next few weeks. And what that will enable me to do is allow more airflow around the tomatoes, which will prevent any kind of sort of mould or mildew forming on the plants. So these tomatoes are a little bit close together. I tend to pack them in as tight as I can. Really, I could have got away with just putting 8 plants in here, but I've done exactly as I did last year. It was an experiment last year, and it wasn't too bad, apart from the fact I didn't have much airflow around there. So what I'm going to do is improve that by making a vent in that piece of glass at the back there. And then I'll see how they get on this year. So those are the tomatoes in and the cucumbers in for 2016. So this is 1 week on, as you can see what a difference it's made. The tomato plants have really grown over the last week. As soon as you get them in the ground, they really do shoot up. And it's at this time when you want to most certainly go in and take out these side shoots, because this is basically wasted energy, so you don't want these to grow too long. Particularly at the top, that's where you're going to get the big ones. So you're going to get this stalk here, just basically pull it over to one side and it'll snap off. And then what you will get is the first flower truss. So here's the first flower truss here. So that's going to flower, obviously that's going to be bearing fruit. So what you want to be doing then is you want to tie the tomato plant to the cane just below the flower truss, because when the fruits form, that's where the weight's going to be on this stalk here. So you need to anchor that to the stick. But just go around any of the plants that have got these little side shoots. The smaller you can get them, as soon as you can get hold of them, just sort of pull them over to one side, and they'll sort of cleanly break off like that. And then all you want is just the main stalk going up. And then, as you can see, the first flower truss, you can just start to see that in there. There's another flower truss forming there. So before you know where you are, these will be up right the way up to the ceiling and full of tomatoes. So you just need to go around, as I say, pulling out these like that as clean as you can. I've left a little bit of that on. Just take it off to the side and they'll come off. And again, on this one here, you can see the first flower truss there, just forming there. So that's going to be the first place where you tie it to the stick. Okay, so it's now time to put the parsnips out that I've grown in the propagator. Now, as you saw the other day, I was sort of thinning these out, so there's only one in each of the cells now. Now I'm ready to put these out. If anything, these have gone slightly too far, because you can see the tapping root's starting to come out here. So that's a really good sign that I've not got them in time, basically. So these will be going out today. So I'll show you what to do with these now. Okay, so these are the 2 rows of parsnips, as you can see, that I planted not that long ago, about 6 weeks ago. Now what I'll need to be doing is thinning these out, and so as I'm weeding them, what I'll do is I'll thin them out so they're probably one about every 6 to 8 inches going along the row. But in the row, what you will get is spaces like here, for example, where basically the seed hasn't taken. So what I'm going to be doing is putting in some of the ones that I've grown in the greenhouse into this space here, and I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so this is where the parsnip needs to go. So obviously the first thing to do is get any weeds out that have grown, just pull them out of the way for now. So I'm going to be putting the parsnip in here. So the first thing you need to do is to dig, I'll just get that out of the way for a second, dig a hole here. You don't want to disturb the ground too much, but dig a hole there which is deeper than the parsnip that we're going to put in. So making sure that we've got no stones in there as much as possible, because the stones are what's going to make it go deformed. So now we've got the hole in there, we're going to be taking one of the parsnips out, and you can see most certainly the roots have actually got to the bottom of the tube. Now just to check that's at ground level, I need a little bit more out of there. That's it. Now as soon as I've got it at the right level, all I need to do is just pull the plastic from round. Now obviously what that'll actually do, it'll make sure that the roots aren't disturbed, which is really important. So as I'm pulling it out, I'm just putting the soil back in the hole, like that, and then I can just pull that out all together like that, so it's now supported by the ground around it, and put some earth in like that. Now it's really important that the roots don't get disturbed, because that's when you'll get a deformed parsnip. So that's now in the ground. Now what I need to do now is leave that, and that'll grow on quite nicely, just like the rest of the parsnips. Okay, quick ginger update. As you can see, these are the ginger sort of roots, if you like, or the rhizomes that go under the ground. As you can see, these are the shoots that are now forming. So what you need to do is keep these reasonably warm, not too warm. A greenhouse condition's not really sort of okay. Now some of them obviously, you know, on all of those there's only that one there that's really forming. This one's got quite a nice one forming on there. And these ones here, as you can see, there's a number of ones that are forming on there, and this one's got a little one sort of forming on the side there. Now there are some more in the side, but what I'm going to be doing in a few weeks' time, when these have started to grow, is we're going to be planting these in this bucket here, in there. So obviously I'll put some more compost in there and freshen it all up, and then they'll be planted in there like I did last year in the greenhouse. Now what you need to be doing is waiting a little bit longer. They are a bit behind where they were last year, to be honest with you. You know, these were almost shooting at this point, but so what I'll be doing, as soon as these start to really grow, I'll be putting these in the ground, in that bin there, and growing them on. So I'll put all those in a couple of weeks' time, as soon as these have developed slightly more. But I'll say in the meantime, just keep them reasonably dark. You know, just keep them in the house up on a shelf or something like that. So room temperature's perfectly okay. Not too warm, otherwise they'll get sort of dried out and these won't form properly. Okay, so the birdhouse gourds are going to go in this tube here and in this tube here. I've just cut it in half. It was slightly bigger, but I just wanted to point out, try and put some of this stuff on, which is it's called coaching strip. It's quite readily available, and what you can do is you can put that round any sharp edges on metal, and it'll stop anybody getting their hands cut and stuff. But what I've done is I've just sunk that in there. Obviously it's open at the bottom. This is just basically like a piece of galvanised steel pipe. It's actually off an aircon system. And all I'm going to do now is I've filled this with the compost, the clover compost. I haven't put it on top of any plants. There's actually no plants there, loose or not, but the mint likes to grow around the back, so there's plenty of room on here, and on there I've got this lemon balm growing around the front of it, so it'll blend in quite nicely. So here are the birdhouse gourd plants, and they're just about ready to go in now. This is the I can't do this with one hand, but there you go. So there's the root ball. So they're all ready to go in. Again, just like the other gourds, what you don't want to do is plant these too deep. So they need to go in like that, just at the same height as they were in the other pot. Good firm down like that. It's much easier to do when you've got two hands. But so that's what it should look like. Now these are going to grow quite big, so I've put plenty of compost here for them to grow into. These all need to be watered on a reasonably regular basis because they're sort of high up, and these are surrounded by herbs. So herbs like it reasonably dry. These like it reasonably warm, which is why I've not planted it at ground level. So I can just water these separately. Now this is going to grow up. It's going to go up this fence, and it's going to go along all the way to the end probably. So what I'm going to be doing is putting some screwing some of the mesh that's come off the Harrison fencing along here, so it's got something to hold on to, and they're going to grow up and along. I'm going to plant that one in there just the same. That's going to grow up and along that way as soon as I've got this comfrey out of the way. Now the others that are left, these are the slightly older plants. As you can see, they're looking a little bit pale. So that's basically a sign that they most certainly need to go out. They're getting pot bound now. So these are going to be planted along the framework here, so they can grow along the framework. So last year I had sunflowers along here, but this year I'm going to be planting the birdhouse gourds along here, then they can grow up and along this framework, along with the rest of the trees and that. And so I'll be planting one at the end here as soon as I've weeded, and then one every sort of metre or so, so they can grow up and across here. They are quite leafy, so they do tend to you know, take all the light out from anything that's underneath it, so you need to be careful where you do plant them. I've got 7 plants here, possibly too many for there, so what I might do is put 1 or 2 down the bottom, because I'm frightened that if I've got too many here it's going to starve all the light off the trees. But so that's the birdhouse gourds for now. So I'm going to plant the second one in there, give them a good watering in, and then that'll be the 2 for here. I may well possibly put another one in here next to the water butt, so there's a bit of space there, and then I can put another you know, another one of them pipes in there, and then what I can do is grow that up and grow that along as well. So anyway, that's what they look like. So I'll put the other one in, and then I'll show you what it looks like in a few weeks' time as soon as it started to grow a bit further. Okay, so it's time to put the leeks in. This ground was dug a couple of weeks ago, so the ground is reasonably dry, which is not ideal, because of basically what you need to do to put the leeks in is you put in a stake on the ground like that. Obviously I've marked out the rows. Now the leeks need to be going around, I always put them around sort of 6 inches apart. Now I've stuck that stake in the ground. What you need to do is basically turn the stake around and round like that, and what you'll find is the ground will kind of fall in round it. Any stones or anything like that, just pull them out of the way, because what you don't want to do is fill the hole in like that, and then take the stake out as carefully as you can, and that basically generates a hole in the ground. Now the leeks have obviously been growing in pots, so they should be looking like that. All you need to do is separate out one of the leeks, trying to keep as many of the roots on there as possible. Some people trim the roots off like that and also trim the leaves. I never bother. You can if you wish, but all you need to do then is just put the leek into the ground like that, kind of push it in like that. Now whilst you're holding the leek in place, what you need to do is water it into the hole. So just hold the top of the leek so it doesn't vanish into the hole, fill the hole with water, and what that will do is it will wash the roots down to the bottom, and you'll find that the side of the hole collapses in and covers all the roots with earth. So all you need to do, as soon as you've watered it in like that, leave it, and then the leek will start to grow in that place. As I explained, some people do trim the roots off, so as they're pulling them off like this, what they can do is leave sort of that many roots on, and they also sometimes trim the top off as well. I never bother doing that. I find that they're okay as they are. So just carry on up the row like that, planting them in, and then that's your leeks done for this year. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden.